Hello everyone and welcome back to another edition of the GSMC Fantasy Sports Podcast, brought to you as always by the GSMC Sports Network. My name is Christopher Shepard. Thank you all for tuning in on this wonderful Wednesday afternoon here. And for our midweek show, happy hump day to you all out there. To get over that respective hump with today's show, we're going to be doing all things Thursday Night Football. I always like to get ahead of the curve in that regard. Doing a general betting preview, getting you prepped on all the money lines, over-unders, and things of that nature for tomorrow night. And looking at some general prop bets on what should be a feisty NFC encounter, concluding our positional rankings as well with our tight ends and our defense and special teams units that I believe will perform very well in this coming week. And to conclude today's show, we are going to be looking a little bit at college football. Week 9 will kick off on Saturday. A lot of interesting games, actually Friday. Scratch that from what I said before. Friday, we will have Boise State UNLV, which will be a good one. Kind of giving you a hint of what's to come in that segment. But before we get into any of that good stuff, I do want to remind you that if you feel so inclined, to consider liking, following, and subscribing to the show in the network to further support it. It's a great way if you want to interact with more shows, see what other podcasts we have here on the network. It is highly appreciated in advance in whatever capacity you choose to interact with the show. But one way to do it more directly, including through our live streams, you're making yourselves available to here on YouTube, the Super Chat, Super Thanks, and Super Stickers features. They're the best ways to get your comments and opinions on air. You can either just leave any burning questions, comments, or concerns you have throughout the show, or also click that $sign right there in the comments section to leave a tip or donation. But all you do for this show is greatly appreciated because it only makes it that much better. Without further ado, let's jump to our first segment of the day, our Thursday Night Football betting preview. Now, this game between the Vikings and the Rams is a very interesting one. The Vikings coming off their first loss of the season at home to the divisional rival Detroit Lions, going on the road to SoFi Stadium to face a very gritty Rams team, pulling a very gritty victory over Las Vegas last week. And this certainly feels like one of those games that could be a trap game for a team like Minnesota, who wasn't expecting to be at this point where they are one of the teams to watch in the NFC North in the entire NFC as a true contender, but they also didn't expect to be playing with this much house money at this point in the season. So it's one of those weird games where anything could happen. We could see a sluggish game yet again from Minnesota, or we can just see an utterly dominant performance by Minnesota. On the Rams side of things, this is a weird game for them because of the fact it's coming at least a little bit before the return of some of their weapons, including Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua, most importantly. And also, maybe Cooper Kupp will not return to this team in any capacity because of the trade rumors. Apparently, the Chiefs, before acquiring DeAndre Hopkins, tried to trade for Cooper Kupp, and apparently they did not have the resources or didn't make the good enough offer to the Rams to acquire him. But that's something to note going forward for this Rams team. But it's a very interesting game surrounding all that tension and drama off the field. But on the field, I feel like what the Rams can do to slow down the Vikings is that A, play into the home crowd atmosphere, even though SoFi is not necessarily known for its crowd atmosphere, so to speak. But also rely on your physicality. That's what I feel like the Rams have done in the absence of players like Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua. They relied on their physicality. They've done just enough to get themselves over the edge in some games, like last week, like in that game against the 49ers. So, this one can be close, but I still feel like at the end of the day, I'm going to have to lean towards the Vikings here. But in terms of a general betting perspective, Minnesota are actually 3-point road favorites. The over-under is a respectable 46.5. LA is a plus 140 to win. Minnesota at minus 165. So as you can see, not much discrepancy here, but I do feel like it's telling that Minnesota is a road favorite, however small that total seems, in my opinion. But going into this game and looking at it from a neutral perspective, this is one of those games that feels like a turning point for each respective team should they win or lose. For the Vikings, if they win, it's just another win in the win column for them, I feel like. They feel like they knew they weren't going to go 17-0, but they're working with what they got. And they understand their identity, and it translates into how they play. Their physical style on defense, their complementary style on offense. And thus, that's why I feel like this could be a game where we see them return to form. On the other side, if they lose this game, how much concern would, say, a Vikings fan have if you lose 2 straight? Because of the fact that, yes, you have a divisional loss already, but you still haven't played the majority of your divisional games. And looking at it from that perspective, I feel like either way, Minnesota wouldn't feel that terribly. Because losing this game, yes, you're kind of in a bit of a slump if you do so, but you still have an opportunity to go out, win your divisional games, and take care of business in that regard. So if you lose this game, it's no sweat off your back. You're still in an advantageous position. You're still one of the top teams in the NFC, and all you really want to worry about is staying in the playoff picture. So one meaningless loss, albeit in a presumable trap game, doesn't necessarily mean the end of the season, as my man Andre enters the chat. Now on the Rams side of things, if they win, that is huge for them, especially considering the tenor of the NFC West, because the NFC West is a winnable division right now. No one has truly separated themselves. So if the Rams win this game, they will be sitting at 4-4. Seattle has a tough game at home against the Bills. The 49ers have a weird game against the Cowboys, and who knows what the Cardinals will look like going forward. So if the Rams win this game without Kupp and Nakua, that is very integral to their playoff push going forward. They are a little bit of a wild card in this division and in the NFC, but they can use that to their advantage, much like they did last year when no one really expected them to make that little playoff push. If they lose this game, I kind of feel like the Kupp trade rumors will come circling. And not for nothing, I do feel like more teams will be offloading receivers than adding them to their team. But I do feel like Kupp would be an interesting piece for, say, a contender. Maybe not a contender in the NFC West, because there's no way the Rams want to trade within the division, especially to teams like the Niners and the Seahawks, who might be wanting to make that playoff push at the end of the year. But certainly to potentially a team that feels like they're in the mix. I feel like the Chiefs are kind of set with what they did, but say, a mid-tier AFC team, maybe, the Broncos or the Steelers would be someone who could come calling. Maybe even the Jets, if they're dissatisfied with their receiving core, they trade away Mike Williams but still want to bring in someone else. It's a crazy far-fetched idea, but the idea will be more entertained should the Rams lose this one. But ultimately what it comes down to is how weird this game is for both teams at this juncture in the season. Because no one expected the Vikings to be where they're at. And no one expected that if they lost this game, it wouldn't necessarily mean anything. Not because they had a losing record, but because they had a winning record. And for the Rams side of things, no one truly expected them to, have to handle so much injury problems, yet still be in the NFC West race due to the fact that other teams in the NFC West have injury concerns of their own. So that's what makes this game so puzzling to bet on, because it feels so easy to hedge your bets on the Vikings because of the fact they feel like the superior team, they feel like the more complete team. But you have to think, this is a weird situation after an emotional home loss, their first of the season, after an unprecedented start for them. Going on the road to SoFi, yes, it's not the best of home field advantages for teams that play there, but it's still a significant journey for the Vikings to make. Going up against a gritty, physical Rams team without their best weapons, that's kind of pissed off to begin with, to potentially supplant some teams in the NFC West, plus add back your injured weapons to your squad, should both of them remain on this team, then that's where all the questions can arise. I'm still picking the Vikings, and I think they will cover this spread, but I'm not sure, as Ani said, I actually wouldn't be so shocked if the Rams won, and I wouldn't be shocked either. I feel like this game is so bizarre, as Ani said, McVay is also going to dial something up. Yes, I feel like McVay will have a big say in this game as well, because he's really utilized certain players to the best of their abilities, but I also feel like the reason why this game is so much in the Rams' court is because this is one of those teams that feels like, they're not going to be in the playoff conversation. They aren't thus far, but in all reality, due to the volatility of the NFC, especially the NFC West, this is their opportunity. And they're getting a Vikings team who might be resting on its laurels a little bit and might be letting their guards down in this game after a practically cross-country trip. So that's why I feel it's a weird game. I still am going to take the Vikings just because I think they're the better team, and I can't deny that defense can stifle and is proven they can stifle McVay-style offenses this season. But I am kind of interested to see how the Rams play this, because they have the advantage in terms of the home field and in terms of where the Vikings could be at mentally in this game. Let me know what you think about this game in the comments, because we are going to, right after this short break, continue talking about this game in terms of a prop bets perspective. A couple popular ones out there as well. So we'll be right back after this short break.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord.